Doo-doo, chick-doo-doo. That's the
Ooh.
angle. Doo-doo,
Ooh, what?
chick-doo-doo. That's the podcast.
And we are live here with Crystal, aka the Musing Eye. What's going on?
Hey guys, what's up?
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I am very happy to be here. I haven't seen your face in a very, very long time.
Yo, it's been
And
like
I
2
think-
years.
Was that the last time I saw you when I first did the podcast?
So, small world, you were actually the first podcast guest on That's the Angle.
Yeah, but was that like the last time I saw you? Or no?
Yeah, in person. Yeah.
That's
or
crazy.
even just like talk like this, yeah. And guess
Yeah.
what? That was this month. It was June this month.
Oh,
so the podcast
was
is
it?
officially 2 years old this month.
Wow, congratulations.
Thanks, but at the same time,
Yeah, that's
feel like
crazy.
I know, isn't that nuts?
Yeah, I'm so happy you kept going with it because
Right?
like it was kind of like it was like a new thing for you at that time, but you really like pushed it and like had a lot of other cool people on here.
Yeah, here, let me show you something real quick because we got
Yeah.
the power of Zoom.
Nice. Oh,
Look at this. There's no sound, but look, this is literally the first episode of That's the
Okay.
Angle. Look at you. You have a whole different.
Oh.
Actually, you saw front bangs. You still kind of look the same.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm such a different. It's crazy. I feel like looking at that now, I feel like I'm such a different person. It's so
Right?
weird.
Like it's
That's
only
so
it's
weird.
only 2 years ago, but it feels like 5 or something.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I'm kind of at this phase right now where like when people meet me, I'm like a different person just because I've like, grown so much as a person and like as an artist and just
Mhm.
experiencing different things and stuff.
Yeah, it really makes you think like a lot can happen in 2 years,
A lot can happen in 1 year.
right? Like let
Yeah.
alone the past like 6 months.
Yeah. I really think so.
Like it's
Yeah.
it's so crazy. Like I don't know if I don't know why, but I feel like time has been slowing down as I get older and as I like get more centered in myself and the things that I'm passionate
Mhm.
about. I feel like time just slows. I mean, at least for me, it just slows down.
Mhm.
It feels like something that was 2 years ago was 5 years ago.
Maybe. I think time feels faster now,
Mm,
but I think growth is also faster.
right?
So, yeah.
Is it
I
like
don't. I never understand people who are like exactly the same when I haven't seen them in a long time. I'm like, how does that happen? Like you just in your place,
it's like you didn't
but-
progress as a human or anything.
right?
You just sort of like limboed around.
Basically.
What the hell have you been doing?
I don't know. Yeah. How
I
have you
mean-
been? What have you been up to?
I've been great. So in that video, no longer at that studio. I've been out of that studio for like a
Mhm.
year.
Yeah.
And which is nice, but everyone's
Yeah.
got to have like a beginner studio, and that was it for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's always a really, really good start just because it gives you so much more of your personal space. And
Yeah.
just, I think having physical space is always really important,
Hmm.
I think people underestimate the value of that, but I think when you have like a physical space, whether it's your room or just a place to be creative, I think it changes the whole game.
Yeah,
So really good
I-
for you.
I definitely noticed that. Like, I do less creative things actually because I don't have the
Mhm.
studio. Like, that was kind of like my
Mhm.
creative space. But there's a give and
Yeah.
take to everything, right?
Yeah, and I think also sometimes when you're just in that space where there's going to be creativity or like
Mhm.
you just see lights, you just start to kind of get more inspired and creative. Yeah.
Yeah,
For
it's
sure.
definitely different when it's like not set up all the time. It's so weird. It's like when you're in the
Yeah.
studio, like you said, the juices get flowing. Like you start like seeing something
Mhm.
on the shelf, and you're like, maybe I'll do this. But dude,
Mhm.
that podcast setup was so janky. Like
Yeah.
I was using my DSLR that was on a tripod with just like a shotgun mic, and I could only record for like 30 minutes at a time. That podcast was like
Yeah.
the podcast was like 45 minutes.
Yeah. And the pillow in between.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
I wish I never left that pillow there. I wish I kept it.
Yeah, I still remember that day though. I still remember everything about it. Just the whole, because I was really sick that week, I remember. And then I was like I was getting over a fever. So I just remember at that time, just like going there. It was perfect. It like happened very smoothly, I feel like.
Mhm. Yeah, I thought so
Yeah.
too. And it was so cool to like get your perspective at that time. Like the title was like
Yeah.
DC photographer talks to New York City photographer, which still is a
Yeah.
valid thing, but it's just
It is.
it's so nuts. Like, oh my God. It's so weird to think about like just how much has happened as people.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we should do another one in like 2 or 3 years and see where we are.
Yeah, like I can't stop
Yeah.
now. Like doing the podcast for 2 years, which honestly, I've seen so many podcasts come and go since then. It feels good. Like it feels
Yeah.
good to just
Yeah.
have been consistent and always upgrading it.
No, I feel like I'm like I really commend you on like doing this just because like I wanted to do a YouTube channel. I don't know on what, but I just didn't have the energy and the commitment. And I think like a lot of the times it's the consistency that's more scary than anything else. Cause everybody can do one thing and then just stop.
Yeah.
But I think like with you, you've really like taken it and been consistent. Like I see your stuff. So yeah, like I think that's great. Yeah. And it's only going to keep growing from here. Like even if you can't see the end goal, like you know it's going to grow if you just keep going at it. And most people just, we're too afraid to go through that journey. So I think it's a really good thing to just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I wasn't like fishing for a compliment, but I'll take it on a 2-year anniversary, even though like I'm just making today like the 2-year anniversary, but like 2 years in the scheme of things, it feels like not a long time to have been doing anything. So to be impatient about it or to be sort of like, why don't I have more subs or why don't I have more this? Why don't I have more listens? It's like, it's only been 2 years, bro. Like people are just finally.
Yeah. I mean, also like speaking about like comparisons and why don't, like, I think that's also like a big thing that I've gone through and still go through. But I think in the beginning, like I was very harsh on myself where I was like, I'm not there, or, like, why have I not gotten published in Vogue or something like that? But I think now like I'm more comfortable, or even if I do have those thoughts, I'm able to like step back and kind of like, wait, that's not my journey when the time is right, or is that even really what I want, or is that just what I want because that's what everybody is saying they want? So I think like it's a very individual thing, and I just think people need to stop comparing themselves. I mean, including myself, but I think that can be very destructive to your progress.
It really can, especially something like photography where you can so easily just scroll down and see someone shooting for L cover. And you're like, but you don't see the 5 years that they put in to even get to that position, Yeah.
Yeah. I was telling someone else the other day, like someone was talking about how someone like did some big project, but I'm like, you don't know if that happened overnight or if that person has actually been doing that since 15. And if even if that happened overnight, like it might have just been chance, or might have been through a friend or through a connection, and you just can't like think like that. It's just only going to destroy you.
Oh my God, I know. It's like checking my subs every day, even though it's like been amazing. It could destroy me if I'm like, oh, but this guy got 10K in a month. What the hell am I doing? It's like
yeah.
But I mean, so much has like changed for you. Like it's not like we have been watching each other over like 2 years and like loosely communicating. Like I've been watching you. Like you've grown so much, like as a person and a photographer, especially.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's really been a journey. And I say that because I feel like as an artist, we separate our personal life from like our business or our art life or our production or whatever. But I actually think they go so much hand in hand.
Really?
And I think for when I first met you, or for the podcast, I mean, I was in that mindset of creating things for people and for clients and making them happy, and they were the priority. And I wasn't creating anything that I actually wanted to do. And exactly this time last year, I was like, well, what is it that I want to do? And I had no clue. All this time, like obviously what you produce is always going to be a part of you because it's an extension of you as you're shooting. But at the same time, it was always what I thought people wanted to see or what I thought was my brand. And I just no longer resonated with that. So like that was like a huge like I kind of had like a quarter life crisis type of situation going on. And I'm still kind of in that journey still, but now it's like I know what I don't want to do and I know what's not me. So I'm still figuring it out, but it's getting clearer and clearer as I like progress.
That's an interesting thing, like creating what you think, like what the client wants to see, or like what you
Yeah,
think's going to
because
get likes or whatever it might be.
yeah, I was so focused on the numbers. I was so focused on getting the right clients, the big clients, and I thought that like I needed to really produce something that was very commercial
Hmm.
and very like just getting for the money and just survive. I was basically on survival mode with everything. But I'm realizing that after you have a certain amount of that, you can start to do things that fit who you are as an artist better.
What's that sound in the background?
Sorry, is that distracting? I am.
What?
Let me know if it's stopped. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I
Is
just
it
didn't
good?
know. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it was a phone. It was another phone call.
Okay. My fault. Yeah, I forgot
Yeah,
you're in New York. You guys are literally on top of each other. How dare I expect privacy? How dare I expect privacy?
Yeah, I didn't realize like my boyfriend and I were gonna have meetings at this time, and I was trying to find a better place to get to, but
Oh, it's okay. Then
yeah.
no worries. Can you hear my AC, by the way? Like my AC is like right behind me. Can you hear it in your headphones at all?
No, I'm
Okay.
good. You're good. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I wouldn't want to listen back and I'd hear like the fan buzzing and I'm just sitting here like, oh crap.
Yeah. Actually, yeah.
Yeah. No worries. But yeah, but as you were saying, like shooting for yourself and finding like your own voice, like what happened? So you kind of had that like epiphany moment, and then what'd you start doing?
So I'm gonna move.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more quiet. But I went to Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and I have never been to like a Florida beach place in my life before because I've always been in the city. And when I went to Florida, that was kind of like a life-changing moment just because it was the first real vacation I ever had in my life.
Oh, wow.
like as an adult. And it
Yeah.
was only for 2 nights, 3 days. But I think the change of scenery really, really, really helped. I think being in the city, like living in the city, being in the city and that hustle life, like I think I'm realizing now, like people glamorize that. And I was definitely a big part of it. And I wouldn't take it back. But at the same time, it's very toxic because you're not giving your body a break. And why that's so important is because when you give your body a break, you're also giving your mind a break. And when you give your mind a break, you have more room for imagination and for creativity. And when you're just pounding out content for clients, for Instagram, for whatever the case, you're never giving your imagination room to grow. So once I started realizing I have to take more time to figure out who I am as a person, that's when I can figure out what I do want to create. And when I went to Florida, I saw like, just nature and the it's so crazy because like I just didn't grow up in nature. So for me, seeing nature was like very surreal, and it reminded me of a lot of the surreal artists that I was in love with, like
Oh, wow.
Salvador Dali, for example. And
Mm-hmm.
I've always like wished that I could create surrealism in photography, but just something about that moment, it just felt surreal. And I just captured some images, and I felt like that it was kind of like a light bulb went off when I was like, this feels really good. This feels very like something that I should be doing.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah.
That's really interesting that like it took just that little bit for you to feel sort of centered again, because like you're right. Everyone sort of glamorizes the hustle culture, the grind. No one like champions the how about just relax and think about life and get some
Yeah.
perspective and just like
Yeah.
deflate a little bit and just
Yeah.
take a breath and take things in.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's not easy to just say that and do it just because, like, you literally still are, as a freelancer, you're constantly looking for jobs, you're constantly networking, you're constantly, you have to look out for yourself, but you also have to take care of your mental health and your physical health. And I'm still not there all the way, but I can definitely say that I've improved a lot. And like a lot of the work that I've been able to create that I'm happy with have only come out of me being in tune with myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not freelancing anymore, right? You took a job
No.
at Business Insider. Congrats, by the
Yeah.
way.
Thank you.
I know I've been watching that, and that's been so incredible to watch. And like,
Thank you.
there's so many like perspectives you could have on like a freelancer going in that direction or everything. Like, what was the decision there?
So it actually goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. I was
Mhm.
just so tired of freelancing. Like it was really taking a toll on my body because, as a photographer or a videographer, even you're constantly having a backpack on your shoulder. You have several tripods, you have lighting. I was doing gigs that didn't have room for me to charge anywhere. So I was carrying multiple battery packs, walking on my feet and just, no rest. And then you come home and then you're looking and sorting through the photos and then you're immediately editing. Cause like, if you don't respond right away, they may not want to work with you again. And there was
Mhm.
just a lot of anxiety and I was just always on this hyper alert, never sleeping. And I just had it. Like my body was just like, I was crashing all the time. I was burning out. I was starting to, I wouldn't say I was getting depressed, but I was starting to feel a little bit like I didn't have purpose because I was always on this like grinding mode. And then I realized like I really need to get my body checked out. Like I need to my spine was fucked up from carrying bags and stuff. So actually that was the biggest motivation for trying to get. Originally I was looking for a part-time job, but it's almost impossible to find a part-time photography job. So I just found this
Yeah.
one open for Business Insider, and I literally was just like, I know about this. I used to read it. Why not? And it just kind of happened, and I just kind of went along with it. I wanted to kind of also step back and see how I was doing, and kind of take a break before I do freelancing again. But so far, the journey at Business Insider has been very good for me
Mhm.
in the sense where I'm learning. There's a lot of room for growth, a lot of flexibility to put my input, um, and I don't have to worry about the freelancing stuff so much. So I'm still freelancing on the side, but it's very, very selective.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like what you want to do. And also
yeah.
it's yeah, you're right. The freelance life is very much like gig to gig, hustle to hustle. Will this client still like me? How do I get my next gig? Especially you working in
Hmm.
New York where it's hyper competitive, where
Yeah.
where like you said, you have to turn things around in like 24, 48 hours, whatever it is like, and if you don't, it might not happen again. Like I can imagine how that pressure is like amplified being in that sort of petri dish of a
Yeah. I
city.
mean, I don't know if it's just that I don't talk to enough freelancers because most of my friends don't freelance completely.
Mhm.
But I feel like that's not something we talk about a lot.
Exactly.
I know people talk about burnout, but I don't really hear, like, for example, one of the things I never really hear people talk about is how much of a facade you have to put into people, to be likable. And I think,
Ooh.
like for example, when I go to an event,
Mhm.
I have to be on my social game. Like I have to turn that on.
Like as a
Or
freelancer or in general?
as a freelancer,
Yeah.
um, because you go into the mindset of an event or a networking place where you're trying to get a client or you're trying to get a
Mhm.
friend of a client or a client of a client. Um, so I was always on my like social game face, but I'm actually very introverted.
Yeah.
So it was a really good learning experience, but I definitely pushed myself far beyond my breaking point. And I think like
Mm.
I didn't know what my real personality was because I was always putting on like this super chill, like friendly, outgoing, bubbly person that I really am not. Or I mean I am, but I'm also
And that's the self-awareness
yeah.
part of like freelancing. It's like you were like,
Mhm.
this is kind of killing me. I'm not as extroverted maybe as I wanted to be for freelancing, but it's like
Mhm.
it's almost as if freelancing can almost like I don't think anyone wants to freelance their entire life. Like that it just seems
Mhm.
like freelancing, it seems like a stretch of time where you hustled to get to a certain spot with a little more stability.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think I think in hindsight, I wish that I definitely didn't jump hard into it and with no plan, but that's just something I had to learn because that's also part of my personality to just kind of be impulsive, but like I definitely learned a lot and I wouldn't take anything back, but I definitely think like it's definitely not something you can just do and expect to do for the rest of your life. Like
Yeah.
it's very difficult to sustain.
Oh, 100%. I mean, how are you gonna like
Yeah.
build relationships and build a family and like and even in that life, your creative and your personal work, it all blurs together. Like it all becomes this giant thing where it's like uh, freelance and creative and business. It's like, what am I building here? It's like, which one is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, and then like the thing with working for a company is, typically when it's 6 o'clock, you clock out, you don't have to touch the work. And they also, I mean, depending on the company, they'll tell you, don't worry about it, we'll do it tomorrow. Or, or in some cases, like, it can wait or something like that. It's like a
Yeah.
collective decision. But as a personal, like as a freelancer, you don't, you may have that option, but I think there's always that like anxiety in the back of your head where you're like, well, I should just go ahead and finish this so I don't have to deal with this later. Or like if a client texts me, hey, are the photos going to be ready? Is there any way you could do them by tonight?
That's so true.
Like,
Is the client texting you at like 6 o'clock when normally you'd be like clocked out and living your own life and decompressing?
right.
It's like now all of a sudden you have this extra pressure because you know what that means. Like those texts mean like I want this shit now. And as a freelancer, you're like I can't ruin this relationship.
Yeah. And I think like, that's also something that I've learned to have boundaries and basically a little pro tip, you just charge everything. So if they want something rushed, you're like, yeah, sure, I can get that done. It's just
Oh,
going to cost you
interesting.
an extra blah 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 amount of money. And some people, they're going to back out, and some people, but I think I've learned how to have boundaries, and when you have boundaries, you also people respect you a little bit more. So that's kind of a positive thing that I've also learned. But at the same time, you still want to meet their expectations as your own boss and your own manager and your own client, having your own client. So there is that pressure, even if you say like, I'm not going to be able to get that done.
Well, that's the thing with freelancing is like there is no off switch. Like when you're done at Business
Yeah.
Insider at 6 o'clock or whatever time you get off, it's like you could shut it off and pick it up tomorrow. You might still think about it like anyone else, but it's not like,
Yeah.
oh, I can do more. I could go into the office and do just a little bit more. Like, it's like, no, you compartmentalize that. And that's the thing that no one talks about
Right.
of like why freelancing can get so bad for you mentally is because there is no shut off. It's like, do you want to go hang
Yeah.
out with friends, which is actually a healthy for you? Like contrary to hustle belief
Mhm.
where hanging out with friends is a bad idea. It's like, well, maybe you need to hang out with friends to like decompress and to get some
Yeah.
dopamine and to like, you know,
It's actually really, really interesting you brought that up because I realized like I don't have any friends. Or like I do, I have like a few close friends, but um I haven't really developed friendships that I would have wanted to over the past
ah,
few years as much as I wanted to, because I always chose work over hanging out. And a lot of the times they weren't things that I could control. Like, for example, let's say I didn't get any gigs during the week, but all my gigs were on the weekend. But my friends, when I hang out, I just can't. If I don't work on the weekend, then I don't know when I'm gonna get work, or
exactly.
maybe I'm not gonna get work, or something might be canceled. And again, like that, everybody's different, just because like, obviously, you can plan it out a little bit better, and you can have boundaries for yourself. And it's just about like knowing where you are and knowing when you're going to get those gigs, but at the same time there's the unknown. So it's a difficult thing to balance.
Yeah, it really is. And it's scary too, especially like if you were still freelancing when all this pandemic shit happened. Like I could imagine the
Oh my god.
stress. Imagine that stress. Like, is my check gonna come in? Like, is this gonna happen? Like, all your clients just disappear.
Yo, so I could not be more grateful for having taken Business Insider. Like, I mean, like I've always been very happy there, and because I've done corporate jobs in the past, and
Mhm.
I was miserable. I was very miserable, very depressed, because it was so corporate to the point where you're only allowed to do that one thing, and you
Mhm.
just do it repetitively, and that's your only job. And if you want to do something else, like they're not gonna let you do that. So
Yeah.
coming from that experience and then having a stressful and fun social not social freelancing life, and then going to a really cool like corporate, like kind of a it's not a startup for sure, but it has that vibe in the sense that
Oh
people can
wow.
wear whatever they want to, and you can pitch ideas. If you're free to experiment stuff if you think it's going to help your project or whatever. And then realizing the pandemic happened, like I honestly just everything just I think happened for a reason. And
It seems like it.
yeah,
Like you had your Florida epiphany, and then all of a sudden you were looking for jobs, and boom, it popped up. It's like, talk about perfect timing when you perfectly need them.
yeah,
You
and
know, the universe is
it's just
crazy like that.
it really is. And like just talking to like my freelance friends who were like struggling and stuff, and I was just like, I would have probably had 10 mental breakdowns if I were still doing freelancing during this whole pandemic. And I mean, I don't even know. I don't know. Like, just, I don't know. Honestly, like, it's just mind blowing to me, like, the anxiety and just talking to my freelance friends.
Yeah, I mean, but essentially, it almost seems like a little bit of structure and stability isn't bad for creative people, which I think people always like to disassociate from, is saying that like
Mm-hmm.
corporate America, fuck them and stuff like that. But like, well, no. How about the idea that like a little bit is good for you, and that it leaves you it leaves you time to do what you actually want to do.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. I think like our generation, maybe I'm jumping to conclusion, but I do feel like, at least from the people that I've met in New York, I think a lot of people think freelancing is fun and it's easy and it gives you so much flexibility, and that corporates are all bad, and corporate,
Yeah.
for working for someone else is like being a slave. But actually, I feel more free now than I was a freelancer. I mean, obviously, just because I am in uh, that place in my life where I need something like this. But the other thing about freelancing that I think a lot of people don't talk about, at least with in the fashion industry, which I was in, is that the time structure is so like weird. So for
Hmm.
example, you might have a photo shoot at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. because you need the sunlight, or you need to be on a street where nobody is there at that time.
Hmm.
Or you may even have like an overnight shoot because you need to shoot at night for whatever reason. And so then that disrupts your sleeping cycle and then like your work cycle. Like you don't have like a set like 9 to 5 or like a certain amount every
Ah.
day. Whereas, and so that actually also affected like my sleeping schedule. And like, if you're this type of person who's okay with that, then that's great. But if your personality type needs like a routine, which I do, or I've discovered that I do better with routine
Hmm.
than like having a set morning and evening routine, that like was not there at all, because I would just come home, look at my photos, send them back, and then pass out, and then wake up, go to my next gig. And then maybe during the day, like if I did have extra time, I would spend that time looking for more gigs or going to an event or trying to catch up with a friend, or or something like that.
And there's like a cascading thing of effects of just bad sleep in general. Like, good sleep is very important. Good sleep, eating
Yeah,
well, like all this shit is good for the mental and good for the body, and like
I'm actually reading a book
called
right
sleep.
next to my bed. Yeah, because like I honestly like if I can say something, like I
Please
really
do.
feel, yeah, like I'm still suffering the consequences of poor management of my freelance life.
Mm,
As in like my sleeping habits are still a little bit fucked up, or like my
mm,
spine, just a lot of like in general, like I still have like anxiety over finishing deadlines, or certain things that I've like brought with me from freelancing.
I see what you're saying.
um yeah, and I mean, everybody is different. For me, I think it was a huge impact because the environment and the industry that I was in was very harsh, and also it was something that was completely brand new to me. And I just kind of dived head in first. So I would say, like, honestly, like, it's very important to know what you're doing, to like have it. It's like, don't glamorize it. You got to really look at the reality of the situation. You got to make sure you got enough money in your savings. You got to make sure you know how to look for jobs. You know, like, it's totally fine to do freelancing, but like know what you're getting yourself into and the complete reality, including taxes,
Yeah.
tax reports, saving all your receipts, budgeting, and just all of that put together. And also not just that, but like knowing what to do with backups and sending people files. Like there's just so much that goes into it that I think that I just was like kind of like didn't really think about when I first got into it.
Yeah, there's so much that is not said or no one's really talked about. Like no one really talks about all those little minute things that really start to eat at freelancing and that mindset and stuff. It's
Yeah.
like the little tiny sort of Legos you step on that just kind of build up. It's like, oh, damn it. Like, did I save that shoot? Did I do this? Did I do that? But like, I
Yeah.
think a little bit of that anxiety towards what you're doing now might be a good thing. I'm sure you're like a rock star at Business Insider. They're like, damn, she gets things in like ASAP. Like, what is this?
Yo, so when I first started, they were like, "Oh, that's not a priority. You don't have to do this. Like, you're already done." And I was like, this is me being slow. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I was
Yeah.
so used to just grinding.
Mhm.
But I was very pleasantly surprised to hear that because it gave me room to kind of step back and produce better quality work.
Mm, I see what you're saying. Yeah, a little bit of like air to breathe about it.
Mhm.
So how long have you been at Business Insider now?
Since September. So
Since
like
September.
6, 7, 8 months.
Oh wow. And so
Yeah.
it seems like it's a positive thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good it's almost like a break to me, to be completely honest, just cuz like the work is not it's like a routine for me.
Mm,
So it's nice to like kind of get into that, and then once I'm done with like my day-to-day work, I'll come home and like right now I'm not too focused on producing stuff. I'm more focused on like taking a step back. I think 2020 is kind of like the year for like everybody to like reflect, and
it
I'm really
really
feeling,
is.
yeah, and like I mean, who am I producing for at this time anyway? So I'm just really taking the time to enjoy looking back and like learning new skills to move
Mm.
forward.
No, you're so right. What's like when has the entire world had a 3-4 month and still going sabbatical to like think about what they want to do in life, what they value, what they treasure, like what's important to
Yeah,
them, and to realize that Instagram ain't shit. Why am I
it's
making
crazy.
content for Instagram? Like, why am I making all this stuff? Like, Instagram ain't getting me all the clients. Like, why am I wasting my time with that shit sometimes? Or even
Yeah.
further than that, it's kind of like you audit yourself during this whole break.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I mean, I don't think anybody should regret doing anything because as long as you learn something from it
Mhm.
and you can take that with you. But I do agree with what you're saying, and the whole Instagram thing was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Instagram's a crazy place right now. I don't even want to log on anymore. I'm just like, oh god damn it! Everyone's yelling at me on there.
Yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah. I put
this,
like a
do that, support this, support that. It's like, oh my god, it's like I have this like visual of like my phone just like yelling at me whenever I open it. I'm like, oh, and I just like put it down because it's just like, god
yeah,
damn.
yeah. I put a time limit on it.
Whoa.
And I feel like that helped. Like it's an hour every day. So like I give myself room to go on it and like see what's up with the world and
Hmm.
catch up on stuff. But once that hour hits, I'm like, all right, I've been here for an hour. Let's get off. Like it's too
Do you
much.
have like an app for that, or is that just your?
That's just on my iPhone.
Oh, you can look on it.
So I think it's in your settings. You can set a timer for all the apps that you have. So
Oh no way!
yeah, it's pretty recent that I've done this.
I didn't know you could even do that. That's a sick feature.
Yeah.
Oh snap! Well, note to self. Yeah. So this whole Business Insider thing, like what has that been like? Because I feel like that, like even seeing the work you produce from that has been really good. Like it doesn't look like it's been creatively stifling. Like it looks like it's been like solid work that you're proud of.
Yeah, so most of the stuff that I do are product photography,
Hmm.
or event photography, or basically whatever comes. Every day it's different. Sometimes I'll be shooting for like a column. Like for example, one of the things that I shoot for is the sex and relationship column, which is absolutely hilarious.
That sounds
So
fun.
it's hilarious. So people will come in with a question every week, like the audience or the readers. And depending on the question or the prompt, I have to create a visual. And I'll often collaborate with like the graphics team to create like a visual that goes with the story.
Mhm.
And a lot of the work is conceptual because obviously you can't go out and photograph certain topics, but you try to make it creative by still sticking to the style of Business Insider, which is like vibrant, fun, straight to the point, but still creating something that tells the story through other objects or other ideas. And that's not so like directly translated.
So something like this.
Yeah, exactly. So this was for a Beats headphone review.
Mhm.
And they were like, you can do whatever you want to with it. And I didn't know what to do, and I had some fish string, and I was like, let me just see what happens if I float them in the air. And it just kind of went from there. And then I put this material in the bottom and then threw some gel lights, and it just kind of,
So
happened. And
so these photos were all done like in camera. Like this wasn't like you took a photo of it floating and then it was completely edited, like and that water was added and stuff like that.
no, yeah. So I really try not to Photoshop anything.
Mhm.
I really like prefer doing everything in camera. So this was done with I hung it with a fish string, and I photoshopped the clear string out,
Of course.
and then the reflective thing is just the material.
Oh, it looks like water.
And yeah, so it's a material called mylar, and I've used it
Oh,
in like, you probably know what it is. And if you like kind of flick it a little bit, it gives you like this water quality. And I think one of the qualities of the features of the Beats headphone was maybe like water resistant or something. And I think that's why I put that there. I'm not sure.
well, yeah, I hope so. Cause I see back when you could go to the gym, you'd see people at the gym with like
Sweaty.
these earmuff like beats on their head, which makes no
Right.
goddamn sense. I'm like, why do you want to wear earmuffs when you're on the treadmill? That seems torturous.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
agree.
So it'll
Yeah.
be stuff like this, like day to day, it'll be like, okay, we have a Beats column, and they'll be like, you just need to do something with Beats headphones, and they'll be like, go buy Beats and go just figure it out, or will they be like, here's a direction or whatever?
It really depends on the reporter. So I work with like different people a lot of the times, but usually they don't really care as long as I'm getting all angles of the product.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a when you go on the media, it's a review, right? So they'll write about the newest release of Beats headphone, and they'll write about the specs and like what the qualities of it, what the new features are. And I'll usually photograph some plain ones if they're just talking about it. But if it's like a highlight of the year or like the best
Oh,
headphones of the year, then I'm gonna like really glamorize it.
so in a way, it does sound a little freelancy. Like you don't know what the thing is going to be, but it sounds kind of fun to have to kind of make it up and to kind of be
Yeah.
creative with whatever it
Yeah,
is.
that's why I think I really enjoy working at Business Insider is the flexibility, and like they're always open, even if it's not something you can do right then and there, they're always open to ideas and different pitches.
Plus, dude, like I'm not gonna lie, you know you can't lie. It sounds really cool. Like I don't know what your title is there. It's like I'm the photographer at Business Insider, bitch. Like that's just a flex. Like that's like a whole like career flex. That's like that's so
Yeah.
cool,
I mean, if you ever come by New York, I can definitely stop by.
bro. I ain't coming by New York anytime soon. Let me tell you. Like oh
Yeah.
no way. I'm scared. I'm scared. What's it like there? By the way, like what's the climate there? Like, are you scared to go
No,
outside?
I
Like, what's that
honestly,
like?
since the protests, I think everything has been kind of dismantled. Like, I don't really think social distancing is a thing. People are still wearing masks, of course, and like,
Mhm.
but it's if you go to a park, people will be playing volleyball, sweating together.
Right?
So,
Okay, yes. DC is not much
yeah.
different. It's weird how people want to be like selectively social distance. Like if I walk by them on the sidewalk, they want to pull up their mask like I have leprosy.
Right?
But like if we're gonna be in a park, everyone's sitting a foot away from each
Yeah.
other, drinking and sharing drinks. It's like, what's going on
It's the
here?
same. It's the same here. It's so weird. Like a part of me is like, is this real or are we just in a matrix?
Right? It's like okay, we can gather and disobey social distancing if we're protesting or Black Lives Matter, or if it's a block party where they're closing down parts of the street. But you know, if you're at a restaurant or if you have an events
Yeah.
business or you're trying to enjoy
Yeah.
your damn life, no, you
Yeah.
gotta social distance because there's
What about you? How has this whole experience been for you?
the whole
Yeah,
Corona
and
experience.
just like, either personally or just reflections or anything that you've discovered or working on.
So in my opinion, I have a couple of viewpoints on it because I think it's something that no one asked for, right? But it also exposed a lot of like business wise, it exposed holes in your
Mhm.
business. Like, did you have that
Mm.
savings? Like, were you prepared? Why didn't I have contracts for some of
Yeah.
these gigs? You know, like that were reoccurring because they could have been having to pay me, but then I would have felt weird about it. So it's
Mhm.
like it because I still sort of freelance. It kind of gets like it all got cut off. Like no one wants to hire you. No one's looking for work. Like no place wants to hire you for social media content because they can't even open their
Mhm.
doors. So it's like, it's that. And so, I mean, of course I've been, getting that unemployment
Yeah.
shit because I got
Yeah,
no
yeah,
choice.
yeah.
And I mean, financially, I've been just fine because I've always lived below my
Yeah.
means, which is something that
Yeah.
I guess I'm
Yeah.
a tight ass for doing, but I kind of just always do that. But personally, uh, it made me like look at everything that I'm doing and kind of assess like what do I find the most joy
Mm.
from? Like what's working
Mhm.
here? Like what do I want to do more of? And personally, for me, it happens to be video
Mm.
content. Like I find myself like if this is photography and this is video content, I find myself sort of like veering off into the video side. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like, I kind of had this realization. I was like, am I shooting for Instagram? Like, am I just creating shit to have something to post? Like, what do I really care about here? And I was like, I care more about having art shows, producing art shows, in doing my podcast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like what you're saying is actually very true. Like, right? Like I feel like a lot of your big work has been for like galleries, or at least that's what I feel like I've seen. And like your YouTube
Mhm.
channel seems to be like your main focus. And I think that's really amazing. Like I would love to have my own show. Yeah, eventually.
Like, well, I just realized I realized that too many like if you're gonna invest your time into social platforms, I want to invest my time into one that has the most
Hmm.
benefits for me. In YouTube, it
Hmm.
pays me. The subs on there mean a lot more than any
Right.
Instagram follower. And in the growth room on YouTube is like insane. And plus I enjoy that content more.
Yeah.
And no one can take that away from
Right.
me. That's what I really enjoy is that no matter what happens, people always want to be entertainment.
Mm.
People want to listen
Hmm.
to podcasts. People want to do things. And it's like, I really love that aspect. And I love, just that sort of form of thing. And so now it's kind of like, if I'm going to do photography, it's going to be for clients. And if it's creative, it's usually for like an exhibition or
Mm.
something like more
Hmm.
like fine art
Right.
based, like, and that in turn, and that me shooting for like an exhibition in turn turns into me producing an art show, which is just content for my
Yeah.
YouTube and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
as well. So I've actually really
Hmm.
found this sort of flow with my life of how everything sort of feeds into each other. And now it's just about like greasing that wheel and keeping that
Yeah.
momentum going and being consistent and keeping going and
Hmm.
keeping going. And it's been really working out because I gotta say, like throughout this whole quarantine, I've just been producing YouTube content and doing stuff, and like the growth has just been
Yeah.
insane,
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially now it's so relevant. Like, I mean, I listen to podcasts all the time, especially when I'm just like sitting down and editing. And I also feel like
Oh, thank you.
the culture of podcasts have grown exponentially, not just within the quarantine, of course, but I think just in general, like it's a really big part of our lives, like especially when you're commuting and things like that. And I think it's really good to, I think everybody, if like that's what you're meant to do, then I feel like you should do that.
Yeah, it feels the most right and the most rewarding at the same time.
Yeah.
So in a way, Corona, thank you. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was an introvert to begin with, so Corona was just like, welcome to my
That's
world,
hilarious.
you know?
Yeah, a lot of my other introverted friends are like, oh, I've been living this life before the Corona even happened. Just funny.
But yeah, I mean, so overall, it's been really eye opening. But I feel like I've grown from it. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, shit, 2 years in, podcast still going. Just hit 2.3 thousand subs
that's
on YouTube,
amazing.
which is insane to me.
What is
Dude.
like your advice on the YouTube world and like your podcast world, I guess?
Oh, well, I mean, I only got 2.3. I don't know shit, but I will say as someone who's like really gaining a lot of momentum is just consistency and always trying to create content that you like. Because if I was trying to create content for subs, I'd just be creating like how-to videos and like camera reviews and bullshit film stuff. But like I might sprinkle some of that in because I'm not stupid, but like I would say create for yourself and be consistent, especially with podcasts.
Yeah, I kind of feel like when social media happened, everybody kind of jumped on it and went a little crazy with the whole production, like producing and regurgitating materials and producing stuff. And I think now it seems to be shifting into something a little more groundedness, and kind of like it seems like everybody is shifting their content into something more genuine, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if you noticed this, but I noticed this in like the people that I follow, where like it used to be all about the visuals and like just being cool. But now, like, because everyone's so tired of social media or like so like tired of seeing the same thing over and over, everyone seems to be like, well, what is it that I actually really want to do? And people are slowing down the number of content being produced, but each production seems to be better.
I see what you're saying. I think that's also a side effect of Corona is everyone ran out of things to
That
post.
too.
And then people started realizing that like, wait a minute, I don't need to post every day,
Right.
twice a day at 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Like life isn't about my Instagram posts. Life is about like me and using this tool to like show my life and to enjoy my life. Like this isn't a reflection of my success.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
But no, I think you have a good point. Like now, even myself, like I'm posting personal photos on my Instagram. I would never have done that last year this time.
Yeah. I think,
Yeah,
I think so too.
Right?
I think this was the first time I did like a self-portrait with like an actual setup during the quarantine, because I was kind of in like a shock the first month, the fact that I couldn't shoot anybody or I couldn't go out and meet someone to shoot. And it was kind of going a little stir crazy. So I decided to shoot myself. That was a surprisingly very therapeutic experience, just because like I think I had been living in this fast-paced lifestyle, and then kind of slowing down and getting to shoot yourself is such a reflective moment, even if it is like a very physical or like a visual thing. And like the first time, because I didn't realize how many insecurities I had like over the way I looked, or at least how I perceived on camera, or like how my body looked. And also like I gained weight over the quarantine, which is fine, but like you don't know how that's going to translate in camera. And just kind of going through that process and then actually posting it, it was kind of like a really weirdly spiritual experience, I think.
Oh wow, yeah, I saw those photos on your Instagram, and I actually purposely didn't save any of those for the interview because they were all kind of erotic.
That's okay.
And YouTube,
Yeah,
yeah, and also like props on that. Like you weren't scared to sort of like show your body and to be comfortable and sort of still use your aesthetic. Like you didn't sort of censor yourself. You kind of just still created what you want with your own
Yeah,
stuff.
I think that's what I'm saying. Like I was a little bit wary and hesitant of posting some of them and actually going through with it, but it was very like liberating to just kind of not give a fuck.
You feel like a little liberated, like putting your titties on Instagram?
Yeah.
That sounds kind of fucked up to say like that. It sounds kind of fucked up. Sorry. It sounds like mean. Sorry. But like, I don't know how else to say it.
I think, I think it's not that. I think it's like, yeah, I post selfies and things like that, and I know they're just for fun,
Uh-huh.
right? But I think a lot of the times putting as a photographer, shooting myself and putting myself as the subject on an Instagram feed seems kind of like a
Mhm.
big deal. Like, 'cause I don't look at
Yeah.
myself as a subject. I'm the person shooting shooting someone. So to look at myself as the subject and as the inspiration really behind the images, it was like a very interesting feeling, if that makes any sense.
Mm. Yeah, because your feed is like the curated highest form of your art. And so to like put yourself there and to hold it under the same regards, maybe
I
that has
think
like a different
that
feeling.
that too for sure on the physical level, but also like just kind of taking the role of being photographed instead of, I mean, I did photograph myself, but also being on the other side of the camera is just such a different
Mm,
experience. Cause like I was, cause you have to like know what expression you're doing. You kind of have to go into like acting a little bit, and then like you have to get outside of your comfort level, and you kind of have to really keep pushing through because like I don't have a remote control, unfortunately, so I literally was like running back and forth
oh my
in between the
God.
timers, and you don't know how many times I was frustrated, just like, oh shit, I just missed that one thing, I missed this one thing, my hair was out, or
Yeah.
my, whatever was in the way, and like just kind of pushing through those annoying moments and figuring it out by myself. I think that process also was very therapeutic for some reason. It just felt like a different experience.
Well, even just looking at your own body is weird too, because everyone deals with that.
Yeah.
Like we all have like this dysmorphia of what
Yeah,
we all look
I
like.
that definitely helped me a lot, and I really think everyone should do it. Doesn't have to be like, putting yourself completely out there, but I think like, and what I mean by that is like fully going for it, like as in getting the props, setting up the lighting, not just doing like a simple shoot, but like actually visioning an idea that you would for your model and putting that same effort. Because I think that's something I never did in the past, where
Oh.
if I were ever shooting myself, it was like, oh, I'll just do like a simple black and white behind a white wall, just because I didn't want to take too
Mhm.
long, or just because I'm just testing out a lighting. But if I'm actually doing that with a model, I'm going to be a little more prepared. I'm going to have like certain backdrops.
I see what you're
And I think
saying.
taking that extra step for yourself as a photographer is a very interesting and a different experience, um, where you get to learn who you are as a photographer and as a subject.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, I like that idea because you're right. Whenever I've done stuff of myself, which is rare, like put the timer on, and it's never the full production, like you're saying. Like it's never, you don't treat
Yeah.
yourself like you treat the
Yeah.
model. Like you don't think about the. Yeah, you're right. I don't think about all the extra details, like the location, the time of day, how my hair is looking, all that stuff. It's like, why not give yourself some love and
Yeah.
do it for yourself?
Like the first time I did it, like it felt like I was treating myself in a weird way,
Oh
like
wow.
treating myself to like self-care session or something. Yeah.
Hmm. That's interesting. Like yeah, it's like slightly therapeutic.
Yeah.
Huh. I like that. Maybe I'll
Yeah, you
try that.
should.
I have this like sweet fire escape back here, and I've been wanting to do some like black and white, like film, like cigarette New
Ooh, yeah,
York
you should.
vibes.
I kind of miss
But like,
Yeah.
you
Like
kind
I
of miss
miss
what?
that aesthetic, because I think a lot of the times everybody's like, "Oh, let's throw some gels," which, I'm definitely all for, but I think sometimes there are
Mhm.
moments where I look at, like, Helmut Newton and, like,
Of
his
course,
black and
love his
white
work.
photographs, and they're just so simple, and it's just the essence of the person and the vibe that they're giving, and I think that's we need to see more of those too, is what I'm saying.
It's so
It is.
timeless. Like black and white film
It
is so
is.
timeless. And personally, I've fallen in love with film now. Like since 2 years ago, like I was all digital back then and I only shot like
Mm.
Instax, which I thought it was so cool
Mhm.
for doing. But like now I shoot all film. Like I only really want to shoot film because I love the fact that I love the interaction of film, like the idea that I'm not chimping. I like the idea that like they can't see it. I like the idea that, you know, it slows me down and it slows the whole process down. The fact that before, if I did a
Yeah.
shoot and I had one, I could do shoot, I could do like a whole shoot now on one roll of film. Like, and
Mhm.
I'll just slow it down, wait until it's right, communicate more, and I'm spending more time dealing with the
Yeah,
model than I
yeah.
am sitting there thinking like, is my f stop too high? Is it too low? Is my shutter speed too? Like, you can't do
Yeah.
that. You just have to kind of know what you're doing, and it's made photography more enjoyable
That's
for me.
interesting. For some reason, like, I wish I could be like that, but I think I have to say, like, I'm just such a digital shooter, and
Mhm.
maybe that'll change in the future, but man, it's probably just because I'm not used to it and I haven't, like, mastered it, but every time I do an editorial with film, I, like, don't like anything from it.
Oh,
Yeah, because,
really?
like, there's, like you said, there's no room for error, you just have to go with it, and it's
Mhm.
and when you don't have the ability to see, I think a lot of my photographs and the things that I do are not simple. There's always a lot of lighting going on, there's always a lot of props going on.
It's difference. It's
Yeah, and I
difference.
think when that happens, and on top of that, you don't have, like, an assistant and it's just for, like, an editorial for fun or something, it's something always kind of doesn't happen the way you want it to.
That's but that's different. That's different because when you're doing stuff like you do and there's so many moving pieces, like just looking at some of your work, you have like 2 or 3 gels, a background light, like 2 lights up front. Like I don't know if I even want to attempt that on film. Like when
Yeah.
I'm talking like my film stuff, I'm like shooting editorials
Yeah,
outside
I
in natural
see.
light with like maybe a
But I've
reflector.
seen
I'm not
Yeah,
shooting
but I've
like
seen, like, photographers who own, like, I remember I once got almost hired for a really big photographer, who only shot film, and she goes, "Do you shoot film?" And I was like, "N Not my own personal work," and she's like, "I can't hire you, I'm sorry." Like, because that's how much she only shoots film. She only shoots film for all her work, all her clients, and she shot for, like, ID magazine, like, Vice, like, all of that type of style, and,
mhm.
she's like, "Sorry, if you don't know how to do film, you can't help me." So I
Wow.
yeah,
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. She's probably like using digital to like test.
maybe.
Like what a lot of people do is like what I'll do is like you'll get it right, and when you finally get it right in digital, you just copy the settings over to your film
Yeah,
camera,
yeah,
and then you get that film
yeah.
aesthetic.
Yeah, or you convert your
But
digital image into something that looks like film.
hey, and you know what? That's a great argument. But my
No, I'm
argument
kidding.
is that half the reason I shoot. No, seriously. But my argument is half the reason I shoot film is that so I don't have to edit it. There's
Mhm.
something magic about film that makes it so it gives it its
You're
own
right, you're
character
absolutely right.
to where I
Yeah,
don't like the skin isn't as detailed, which is nice. So you don't have to
yeah.
retouch as
Yeah, no,
much. Like
the colors are, you can't yeah, no, I completely agree. You can't replicate anything that you do in digital, or you can't replicate film in any way. You can get it really close, but you're gonna always have to manipulate it. But with film, like, it always looks amazing just as it is.
yeah, and
Mhm.
I want to pull up something of yours that I thought is really cool because it's something to me that it
Yeah.
screams like this is digital only. Um, and which is cool because I was like really baked last night thinking about you and thinking about the work that you do, just like really, really, really reflecting on it. And I was like, like what Crystal's doing with some of her work, it's like you're pushing digital boundaries of digital, because it's like digital is such a confined thing that you're doing these things to like change it and to use it for purposes that it's not meant for here. Like this photo right here. God, my computer's such a toaster. Okay, here we go.
Oh, this one.
Like this one right here. Like, and I have a couple other examples, but like this one is, can you talk about this?
Actually, it's so funny. Like, this is not my favorite work at all, but a lot of people always go to this one. So the whole editorial, it was just a fun editorial shoot for submission that a team and I wanted to do. And we wanted the whole editorial to be blurry. You know, usually you get like 1 or 2 photos that are slightly blurry, but you never really see an editorial where like every single photo is like very blurry. And so that's what we really wanted to try and do. And so it was my first time testing out blurs with gels. And it's actually kind of difficult to get the settings right. I couldn't even tell you how I got this. But so basically it was just a fashion story with a bunch of like blurs and a lot of like surreal romantic type of vibe, like a lot of pinks and reds and oranges and a little bit of blues. And I think for this one I had like 1 gel and 1 constant light, and I just put the shutter speed pretty low, and I just kept playing around with it. And I remember it was easier if I moved the photo, or if I moved the camera rather than if the model moved, because
so like when she's standing there, it's not her moving. You took it with like a slow shutter speed, and then you just slightly moved it.
Whenever the model moved, it just was too much movement because she doesn't know what I'm doing. So it was much easier for everything else to be stagnant, and then for me to control it. So once I got I remember like the first 20 minutes, I was struggling so much. Like, hopefully no one noticed, but I was like, I don't know what the fuck. I'm sorry. I'm probably not supposed to curse, but
Oh no, you can say whatever the fuck you want. This is a podcast. Yeah, we're in the Wild West, baby. You don't gotta worry about it.
Hoping nobody would notice, but then eventually, I think like, you know, during hair and makeup changes, I kept practicing with one of the stylists, and I got the setting to where I wanted it to be. But like for this one too, I just had her look at me straight on, and I just kind of like flick the camera from left to right or something like that.
Well, it's so cool because as someone who's been watching your style, it's like I noticed that you started delving into using gel colored flashes, and then you started doing like dual tone gel color flashes. But then I thought this photo shoot was so next level from you because you added in this blur, and I noticed within your work you really loved kind of obstructing and like destroying the cleanness of digital. And so when I saw this blur, I was like, oh my God, that's so genius. Like that blur is so perfect. Like that face blur, it's like you can still see everything, but you have this nice effect that may or may not have been Photoshopped.
I really try not to Photoshop anything. I think it's a style that I've committed to within photography, because when everything is so digitalized, I think it's just not as impressive as someone said, oh yeah, I Photoshopped that. And whenever I was impressed with a photo, and then I would Google or I would look at the interview or talk to the actual photographer, and they were like, oh, I Photoshopped everything. And you see the before photo, it's really like not that impressive to me, just because like anybody can kind of like go and color that. But I think getting it right in camera the first time is always like, it's harder, but it's more true to the authenticity of creation. But you know, everybody's viewpoint on that is different, and that's just something that I prefer.
No, you're 100% right. There, you get way more props for doing it all in camera and in the photo than you do editing, because you can do anything with editing.
Yeah.
But to actually get it right, like get the lights right, get the gels right, get the motion blur right. There's a lot of moving parts. Like I couldn't just try that.
Yeah, I mean, there are some amazing artists who really like do all that Photoshop work, and I find a lot of inspiration there. But I think like photography, the literal definition of photography is writing with light, right? So if you're not gonna explore lighting, then what are you doing? Like,
You're right.
yeah,
It's
you're
shaping light.
literally creating a whole entire you're imagining something through lighting. So I feel like if you are tired of it, or if you need to use Photoshop to do it, you just haven't explored photography and lighting to its full potential, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah, like you haven't conquered your use of light yet. Like you're kind of making up for it.
In a way, yeah. And that's just what I like to do. That's like my,
Yeah,
I
that's just
yeah.
your theory. It's like then you have people who are like somewhere between photography and graphic designers or graphic
Hmm.
artists, and you're like, what? Like it's just a new almost art
Yeah,
form.
yeah. And I totally find inspiration from that as well. But if I like look at like a painting or like a graphic design and I love that, I'm always like, okay, how can I do this without photoshopping, or, you know, minimal photoshopping, or how can I do this through lighting or through hanging or whatever the
Mm.
case.
Yeah, well, you know what's really fascinating is so I did another interview today with this artist named Scott Hutchison, and I've been researching you both quite heavily and just like looking at your work and really taking it in, and I realized there's a lot of
Really?
similarities between you two. Like I was like, yeah, like I'm gonna
Mhm.
pull up one of his photos, and I already know like his work is gonna inspire you because I was like, oh my god, they kind of have a lot in common here. Okay, let me show you. I'll show you one
Mhm.
of my favorite pieces of his. Um, and in my opinion, I was like, when I was looking, I was like, oh my god, I gotta show Crystal
Yeah.
his stuff because I totally see you sort of like recreating this in your own way, which is funny because when he actually creates these pieces, um,
Oh, yeah.
he creates them using photos that he takes of the model, and then he takes them and he puts them in the Photoshop, and he kind of like mixes them together until he
That's
finds something he
crazy.
likes, and then he goes and paints it.
That's really nice. Yeah, I love the colors. Yeah, it's very me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like I was like, dude, this is totally
Yeah,
Crystal's
it really
vibe.
is. It almost looks like she's like submerged underwater or something like that with the blue. It actually kind of reminds me of something. The circle reminds me of something I just posted today. Um, like the circle framing, which is something that I'm kind of
Uh
exploring
huh.
right now. Like, because in photography, you're so used to seeing everything square, but just doing
Yeah.
different shapes also is interesting.
You're so right about that. And when I was talking to him, we started talking about the form of the actual piece of art, and he was saying he likes the circle because it adds to the actual photo itself. Like the way
Mm.
the hands were kind of going around the outside, it adds to it. Or how he had a piece where it's like a black rectangle, but he paints the character so it almost looks like the rectangle's closing in on him.
Yeah. I feel. Mhm.
And yeah, no, no,
No,
go
I
ahead,
was
go
just
ahead,
gonna
go ahead.
say, like in Business Insider, the requirement for our format is horizontal, just because when people read articles, all the photos are horizontal. But on Instagram, we're so used to everything being vertical or a square. But
Oh,
before
you're so
Instagram,
right.
photos actually, most of the photos were taken regular horizontal, because that's what the camera uh the interface is kind of set for that. So I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah.
And then now, because I'm so used to shooting for Business Insider, I rarely shoot vertically. And just in thinking of that, I was like, it's so weird that we think that photos have to be a certain setup, but there's actually like no rules. And like, you know,
That's such a good point. The fact that we've altered our creative outputs because the format is
mhm.
vertical, right? Like, how many photos have you not posted because
Yeah,
you're like, oh, it's too small
yeah, yeah,
horizontal?
yeah. That's why I'm like, Instagram is kind of useless sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if in, I don't know how much time you spend looking at art books, but like, I have a couple like, art books that are from like the, what the hell was that? Like the early American West, like the earliest
Hmm.
images of America, like
Yeah.
old shit, like old shape. And the photos are actually shaped like keyholes. Like, so it looks like the shape of what like Beauty and the Beast's flower in the jar looks like, where it's flat and then it has the oval on top. That was like the actual camera format back then.
That's so fascinating.
And it makes a photo look so sick. I was like, whoa, it's this whole different way of approaching it. Like, why don't we think about our own photography in different shapes as well?
That's really interesting. I would love to experiment with something like that. Yeah, but I think like when you kind of allow yourself to move away from what you think people should produce, I think you're able to look at things a little bit differently and kind of dismantle some of those like quote unquote rules that people have placed within just the visuals of photography.
Yo, I have a total high thought right now. Why are our lenses circle but our photos come out square? Why don't they come out circle?
Well, because it's like reflected, because the light comes in and then it bounces off of that mirror in the back, right?
Yeah, it's the rectangle mirror.
It's so funny though, because I have a book on physics of lighting, and I've been reading it every once in a while during this quarantine and before as well. But as much as I know about settings and photography, I don't know the technology of photography, if that makes sense. Like I know, like, for example, in Photoshop, like you do certain things to get a certain effect, but like somebody was like, why do you have to put in these numbers for that to happen? I'm like, I don't know, that's just a number that you're supposed to put in to get the best results. And then
you mean like settings in your camera numbers?
Not necessarily that too, but like for example, frequency separation, right? When you do frequency separation, the top number is 2, and then you put it over 128. And so I was teaching someone how to do that, and they were like, how do you know that that's a number? Like, and I'm like, I don't know, that's just the formula that I've been given when I was learning this. And if you do any other formula, it doesn't work. And I feel like there's also parts of the camera that I'm like unaware of why that happens. And maybe it's not significant, maybe it is significant, but it's just kind of funny that like just the question you just asked, like I never even thought about thinking that.
Like, are you saying that like you think that maybe you could further manipulate digital if you knew more about the actual workings of the camera?
But that's what I'm saying. I don't know. Maybe not. Like actually, speaking of that, just reminded me. I recently learned. I don't know if you already know this, but when you let's say you want to take a macro shot of a texture or something, you can take your camera lens off while it's already on, set it on manual mode, flip it on the camera body, place it together, and you automatically have a macro lens. Like, I kid you not.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me you take your camera, you take the lens off, and you can't screw it back in, but you just hold it up to where it would be?
Yeah, so I'll tell you something. So for Business Insider, they were doing a story on marijuana for 420, right? So they were like, can you take some shots of marijuana and CBD? Like, we don't really care how you get it, but, you know, whatever. So, yeah, so I wanted to take some really close-up, like, texture shots of marijuana and, like, the crystallization or whatever. And so I didn't have a macro lens, and I thought of using a magnifier. And then I had read somewhere that you can flip your lens backwards. So you literally, all you got to do is wherever you want the shot, you set the setting, and then you flip the camera. You take the lens out while your camera body is on, and then just put it back, flip it over. They also have adapters that you can purchase that's like only $25. The only thing is you would just need to be careful not to damage like the inside sensor. But I mean, hey, if you're on a budget and you need to get some work done for a client, it's the perfect way to do it.
And it worked? You used it for those weed shots?
It was so close up, it was actually kind of creepy because the marijuana just looked like a hairy tarantula. Yeah.
It really does. When you get close enough, it's like no
Yeah.
longer you like trichromes. You're like, what the fuck is this hairy
Yeah.
tarantula leg doing here? It's kind of weird looking.
Yeah. But anyway, basically,
Yeah.
like, I feel like maybe there's some other tricks that we may not know that we can somehow manipulate imagery just with our camera and lens.
Yeah, like just how you're using
Yeah.
like shutter drag, or just how like I've heard of really weird lighting techniques like delay flash or some shit like that. What are you
Yeah,
about to say?
you know the, what is it called? Double exposure. So I've done it
Yeah,
once in camera before. I don't know if you've tried that. Stylist, yeah,
once or
and
twice.
because usually when I think of double exposure in the digital sense, I think of photoshopping it, or like layering images, right? And then controlling the opacity or stacking them.
Exactly.
But I didn't realize until like this past year that you could do it in camera. And I thought that was actually really interesting. Like if you do it the right way, you can actually get things done really, really, really magnificently.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like such an old
Mhm.
film technique, because back in the day, your film wouldn't advance itself. You would, if you didn't
Right.
turn the dial to advance the film,
Right.
you would just take it on top of it. And I remember like when I first started using like lomography cameras, that was one of my favorite things to do, is like think about my settings. Okay, I have to dial it
Yeah.
down a little bit so I can put one on top, and think about what's on the background and what's on the foreground. And even like that piece of art I showed you, that could be a sick double exposure where like you shoot the girl normal, and then you shoot her with blue lights, and then like you do another one with like red lights, and then all of a sudden you have like a Scott
Yeah, there you
Hutcherson
go. That
inspired
was a
piece.
perfect new technique to do that I have never tried yet. Sorry, just getting my charger.
Boom. I coming to an Instagram.
You should
feed
try
near
it and
you.
let me know how that goes.
Honestly, I haven't shot in digital creatively in so long. I'm kind of
Really?
scared to do anything like that. Yeah, it's just been all film creatively.
So are you mostly shooting with film right now?
Yeah, anything
Oh,
creative,
wow.
I shoot
I
with
didn't
film.
even realize that. Like, I know you write that in your posts, but I didn't realize that that was pretty much everything that you, like, how you've been shooting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've been enjoying it a lot. Like I finally just got the film developed for over quarantine. I got like 6 rolls I got to scan, and oh, that's a lot of work. But
So
I'm
do
excited
you
to see what's
have
on there.
you also shot client work with film?
Yeah, a few times, and
Yeah.
I'll include
Okay.
that in the budget. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely. If you want that
Right.
aesthetic, you gotta pay for the
Yeah, that's
film
the
too
other
and the
thing that
developing.
I think film, with the processing and the post processing and all of that, even just as a hobby, it definitely adds up over time.
Yeah, that's why I
Oh,
got the
you
scanner to
haven't.
do it myself,
Nice.
because it's like,
Wait, you talk
mm-hmm,
like the darkroom
yeah,
stuff,
I got.
or
No. I don't develop it. So what I'll do is I'll get it developed,
I
so it's
see.
just negatives I'll get back, and then I'll take the negatives and I have like a flatbed scanner, which basically is like a normal computer scanner. I think, I don't freaking
I
know,
see. Yeah, no, I know what
but
you mean. Yeah,
and I
nice.
just scan it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. It's kind of a time sink, but time versus
Yeah.
money depends on what you got, right? So a
Yeah.
little bit of control is nice too. Yeah, so I like that.
Hmm.
Me and
So
film.
how are things in DC right now? Is it getting back to normal slowly?
So slowly, but it's weird. Like, so we
Hmm.
just entered phase 2, and that means that like the gyms could open. That means that the hair salons can finally open.
Right.
That means that restaurants can start seating inside. But even with that, it's weird because it's like you got to seat every other table. I went to the gym and I have to wear plastic gloves and a face
Wait,
mask to
really?
work out. Yes, yes. I was doing bench presses, and they were trying to tell me I had to wear plastic gloves in a face mask to do bench presses. I was
Oh
like,
my
you got to be
God.
shitting me. And even amongst that, there's like no foam rolling. Like you got to work 6 feet apart from everyone. So I was so pissed off that I did like 2 sets, and I was just like, fuck this. And I went and I canceled my membership, and I was like,
Right,
I'll be back
right.
when this is
Yeah.
over.
That's crazy.
Uh, but Yeah, I mean, so it's only phase 2 in DC, and um it's
Yeah.
just weird that it's just slowly getting
Yeah.
back. And
I'm like really curious as to how the fashion industry is going to recover from the pandemic. Like I'm really curious about that.
like, you think they're going under because they have been
Right. Yeah,
making
because it's
sales
been
and
like
stuff?
what, a few months, and they're probably not. Things are probably not going to get back into normal until at least September, like fully normal. And I'm just kind of curious in
Mhm.
terms of like the the business side and the economic side of the fashion industry, and just like where photography kind of has like a role in that as well, and just content production in general, like where that's
Mm,
gonna all go.
yeah, that's a good question, because it starts at the top, right? And the photographer's like the last thought. But if they're not selling, they're not manufacturing. If they're not manufacturing, they're not selling. So it's kind of like, who's going to be left after all said and done?
Yeah, like a part of me was like, even considering like if you're only doing fashion, like you're kind of screwed, you know? Like if you're or only doing one like specific niche, I feel like.
Well, it made me think about, like, as if opening a brick and mortar
Yeah.
wasn't dumb enough. Corona just made it equally dumb, because now you weren't just shut down for 3 months, but now you had people loot your
Oh, right.
store
Yeah.
as you were getting ready to open. Imagine
Yeah.
that shit. Holy crap. Like, you haven't been able to do business for 3-4 months, and now all of a sudden someone stole all your
Yeah.
inventory.
Yeah.
Like it's different if you're Nike, but like if you're
Small
just someone trying
business.
to come
Yeah.
up, that's a
Yeah. That's crazy.
yeah. So yeah, the protests down here in DC have been pretty
Yeah, I
crazy
bet
too.
it's like in the center of like the government, where all the government is.
Dude, people are
Yeah.
wildin'. I haven't gone down there personally, but
Yeah, I didn't mean to, but I kind of went to like this speaking event from one of the governors here, I think. I don't even remember. And then I
Mhm.
got there too late because I finished work late, and then the protests were coming towards my way. So I kind of ended up joining them for like a quick second. And then yeah,
Why
it
not?
was kind of cool. The energy was kind of good just cuz like everybody was there and they were all like uh the, the positive, and it wasn't like a protest, it was more like a speaking event, so like the energy was very fired up and very positive, so that was cool. But I haven't really like gone to the city
Mhm.
yet, so that would be amazing though. Like someone actually suggested to like do that right now because it's empty, the streets are completely empty, so
Dude, so yeah, I imagine it's all boarded up. I remember when COVID first started here in DC, I took a bike ride down. Like, this is like right when it first started, when everyone was like super worried, right? I took a bike down to downtown DC, like a Chinatown area. It was just empty. Like, I even made a YouTube video about it, and I just showed people how empty the downtown district was, and it was just a ghost town.
yeah, here too. I feel like if you want to come to New York, like if you have a car, you should just like come here, find a model, and just try and shoot something in the street while no one is here. Like
Oh, that's so
now's
true.
the perfect time.
Right? But if I'm doing that, I'm doing it for like a YouTube
Yeah.
video. I'm like 35 millimeter film in
Right.
empty New York streets, clickbait. Like for me, it's no longer just like it's for the gram.
Right,
It's like, no,
right.
this is
It
for a
deserves
YouTube
a whole
video for views, and I'm gonna
video.
get paid. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I know. I've been going on a decent amount of dates actually during
Oh,
this whole thing.
virtual ones?
Yeah. No,
Oh,
real life
okay.
ones. Right? Is that
That is really
surprising?
surprising, actually.
Yeah. Like more than I did before this all
Is it
happened.
because everybody's been cooped up and they just want to like go out and have fun?
Yeah, everyone's trying to fuck. I mean, I'm sure that's what
Yeah.
it is. Like, right? Like everyone's like needs some interaction, and a little bit of one-on-one isn't as bad as like
Yeah,
going somewhere. I don't
definitely.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rationale is.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember a few of my friends were like telling me that
Horniness.
they've been talking to a lot of people online and now they owe like a bunch of girls or guys like 10 different dates after all this whole shit is over. Make
I mean, I'm jealous. I'm jealous that you've been locked in with your boyfriend. I wish I had someone to be locked
look.
in with, man. It's been rough being single in these
The
streets,
grass is always
man.
greener on the other side.
Ah, okay, yeah, maybe too much of a good thing.
Like
Too
it
much of a
hasn't
good
been the
thing.
worst, but like different personalities just clashing, staying in the same room and stuff. So, uh,
Yeah, I can
yeah, I
definitely
think
see that.
everybody's kind of been going through that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Some of these girls got like 10 dates lined up like as soon as things open back up. But if you ask me, I've been enjoying these like low budget dates actually. Not just
Yeah.
because I'm a tightwad, but they're actually
Yeah.
more enjoyable. Like I enjoy them more. Like going to a park and sitting out and drinking like some
Like,
wine that isn't gonna like blow
yeah,
your bank.
actually, like I've kind of feel one of the things I kind of like started to notice was how much I kind of don't idolize the idea of romanticism, if that makes sense. Like
Little bit.
as in like I think society's idea of like what's romantic or what dating is like not really authentic, if that makes sense. Cause
Like
like in the
like what?
sense where like exactly what you just said, when you first meet someone, you're getting to
Mhm,
know them, you're trying to figure out who they are. But taking
mhm.
someone out into just like a fancy place or even just a regular place and just kind of a lot of the girls, or it could be the guys too, expecting something out of that first time versus like what you just
Mm,
said, going to a park and just talking and like truly getting to know someone in like a calmer state. I feel like there's a
yeah.
different expectation and different goals with the park versus what can the guy do for me that's like gonna impress me. Like it's a little bit different, the dynamic.
No, you're so right. Like there's like this weird notion that a date needs to be a nice dinner with wine and then like you smash afterwards. But in reality, it's like you're spending all this extra time and this all extra awkwardness sitting in
Right.
front of each other. And like maybe just going for a walk isn't a bad idea
Yeah, and I
anymore.
think that hopefully maybe the quarantine kind of brought us all back to what I call like our like it's natural. It's natural to want to do that, to go to a park and just chill, I think. And
I
yeah.
mean, last week I went on my first like bar date where you're sitting like
Mhm.
outside at a bar, and I didn't really enjoy it. Like I would have much rather been at a park, laying on a blanket, kicking back, like not sitting so face to face,
Yeah.
like like commenting. And I realized that like when you're in these scenarios, that's like the typical dating thing, like sitting in front of someone and just only having that to talk about. You end up talking about very stupid resume surface stuff, as opposed to when you're sitting out somewhere or going for a walk somewhere or doing something outside, you kind of get to know someone by how they look at the
Right.
world as opposed to this resume they're giving you by
Right.
sitting in front of
Like
you.
I think a lot of people don't realize that eventually when you settle down or if you have like a long-term if you're in a long-term relationship, compatibility is very important. And that's what you should be looking
Mhm.
at in your date. Well, if you're serious about it, of course. But like even just hanging out with my friends, like we've been going to parks, we've been doing like workouts together and just going to the forest and smoking and stuff like that. And I feel like in the past, we've always hung out in the city at like a restaurant or a cafe or going to an event together. And I feel like it's so much more
Ah.
intimate when we just like go to a park. And it's not like you can just remove yourself all of a sudden if you feel uncomfortable. So I think that's also a
Mhm.
good thing.
Yeah, it's like this whole sort of pandemic has also given us more appreciation for community and our friends, but also for how we engage that. Like it doesn't always necessarily need to be around this conventional like cafe, like you said,
Yeah.
or an event or something. It can just be enjoying each other's
Yeah.
company somewhere,
Yeah.
like when we were in
Yeah.
high school.
And like,
That's
yeah.
kind of
And
like what
I'm
it
like
is.
also finding like different inspiration with my photography by being in nature too.
So do you have like a new sort of inspiration or goal with like your creative side or just your photography in general?
Yeah,
Like where
I
you're going with
think
that?
I'm kind of at a place where I'm kind of want to expand more than photography. Like for some reason, I'm not attached. Like I'm not attached to anything that I've done up till now, and I'm kind of going into more digital work, which I never thought I would. So, like for
Mm,
example, right now I'm really into manipulating my photos with After Effects, um, and kind of
interesting.
merging video with photo, or taking photo and then merging that with like a moving component. So I'm exploring that, and
Hmm.
hopefully I would love to get into like video or like short film, like really, really, really short film, not like really long ones, like a few minutes, like that kind of thing. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. But right now I'm.
No,
Mhm.
I love that. I love that work you've been posting. And I didn't save that content because there's a
Yeah.
lot of nudity in it. And for some reason, YouTube finds that 1 second with nipple in my 2 hour long
Really?
conversations and decides to demonetize my video. Dude, I did a 2 hour conversation with this photographer named Sev Xavier, and it was like the edge of a butt cheek,
What?
and they limited
That's
the monetization on the
crazy.
video. I was like, so I was like, we'll just talk about it, and maybe in the future I'll pull it up, but I'll censor it later. But yeah, I was like, how'd they find that? Like, what the heck? But
I
sorry,
didn't know that. I didn't know it was
sidetrack there. But
that strict.
yeah, dude, they're Nazis about that stuff. I thought they were upset about the fact that we were talking about the Chinese Revolution, but when I requested review for the video, like because we were
Yeah.
talking about the Chinese Revolution, when I requested review, I read it and it said for showing like suggested
Oh,
nudity or showing and it was a fine art photo he had taken that is not
yeah.
erotic or nude at all. It was just the back of a girl.
That's really
So
interesting.
I thought,
Yeah.
but I love that work that you've been
Thank
doing with
you.
the photo manipulations. I think that's very cool. It felt very like genre pushing, which is sick.
Yeah, I think I'm just exploring different ways to to push or deconstruct the image.
Mm. Yeah, by putting like the moving like spheres on it and the water and shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or what'd you
Were
say?
you doing like what or what you're probably
Uh,
about to say it.
no, like just adding. I'm not really sure. I'm just honestly right now, like I'm not. I don't really have defined goals. Like one of my friends was just asking me this morning, like, what are your business goals? Like, what are your plans? And I'm like, yo, like honestly, I have no goals right now. I am enjoying or trying to enjoy just doing whatever it is that I feel like doing. And not to say that I'm tired of photography, but I think I am a little bit. Like, um, I'm like constantly looking for like the new thing that I haven't done. And once I feel like I've done all the techniques of something, I kind of want to do something
Mm.
else. And I know that I still have a lot to learn with photography, and there's always something to learn. But I think I'm at that stage now where I'm ready to learn different digital techniques to add on to that. And I'm, like I said in the beginning, like I'm in that learning phase. So I'm just soaking in as much information and just trying to expand like my creativity. But I have no set goals for right now.
Well, I think that's cool to even like just say that and be like, yeah, like I don't fucking have some grandiose goals, but I think what's important is that it's cool that you're not pigeonholing yourself, and it's your Crystal, the artist who takes photos right now, not Crystal, the
Yeah, I
photographer
think that's the
forever.
thing. Like I don't like defining myself. I really don't like defining, and I also love surprising people. I love surprising myself. I love being very new. I'm very into like innovative stuff. Like I'm very into
Mm.
ideas that I may not have thought of. Like that's what inspires me when other people think of something and I'm like, damn, why didn't I think of that? Like that inspires me a lot. So when I create, like I always try to pull from those storages in my head where I was like, I've never thought of that. How can I use this to create something that maybe someone else has never seen?
Yeah, create something that feels like fresh to you, like the what you're saying with like the After Effects sort of manipulations. Like that's sick. You don't see much of that besides that one sort of Muramasa effect, but that's it.
Yeah, I think something like that.
Yeah, 100. Well, Crystal, I think we maybe should just wrap it up there. It's been a fire hour and 45 that we've been rapping for. Yeah, it's been so good.
Yeah,
like,
no, this was really
like,
good. I feel like I don't. First of all, I haven't seen my photography friends in a very long time, and number two, like I don't really get to talk about photography like this in general. So this has been really good. Yeah.
Yeah, same. I don't get to express some of these ideas about like the minute stuff
Yeah,
like
and I think
or like or
I
anything
mean, like I think it's really good just because like, maybe someone else is going through something like this, and like I think it's really good to hear both sides and see how different people handle things and what they're going through, because that's what helps me in my journey when I hear other people's journeys too. So thank you so much for having me on here.
Of course, I'll have you back in another 2 years. That's crazy. Look, if I make it to 2 more years, I will be so happy with myself. The fact that I made it 4 years for a podcast.
Yeah, why not? I
insane.
don't see why you would stop.
Oh no, trust me, I don't. I have to
Right.
die to stop.
Yeah.
Like I'd literally have to be
Yeah.
dead. So, but that's
Yeah.
I don't want to think about
So
that.
I'll see you in 2 years on the virtual digital space, and then hopefully soon in the physical space.
Yeah, I know. Likewise, if you're in DC or when I go down there,
Yeah.
please
No,
check
I
in.
want to
I'll
go there
check in,
soon,
all
so
that
I'll
good stuff.
definitely let you know. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well, that's it. That's the angle. Peace out.
Yeah.
Happy 2 years, guys. Thank you so much for listening.